Can anyone truly hide in plain sight? Michel Notek did, cloaked not in shadows, but in the mundane. What transforms an ordinary life into a tale of horror and deceit? Today, we uncover the dark saga of Michel Notek, a story where cruelty knows no bounds and the quest for justice unveils the unimaginable. This isn't just a tale of crime, it's a mirror to the monsters lurking behind the mask of normalcy. Michel Notek's story starts not with a crime, but with a child born into the tumult of a household where love was a fleeting visitor. In Battleground, Washington, amidst the serene backdrop of an American suburb, Mitchell entered the world on April 15, 1954. The firstborn of Leslie and Sharon Watson, her arrival marked the beginning of what many hoped would be a quintessential family life. But the fabric of the Notek family was woven with threads of discontent and dysfunction. Leslie's departure shattered any semblance of familial bliss. The abandonment, a wound to the young Mitchell, began a cycle of displacement and rebellion. With her father's departure to start a new life with a younger woman, the children, particularly Mitchell, were left navigating the aftermath of broken promises. Mitchell, alongside her brothers Chuck and Paul, found themselves ensnared in the throes of a custody arrangement that mirrored the chaos of their inner worlds. Mitchell's behavior soon reflected the instability of her surroundings. She exhibited a troubling propensity for manipulation, an ominous foreshadowing of the person she would become. What might have been dismissed as sibling rivalry took on a darker hue as Mitchell wielded control over her brothers, using them as pawns in her burgeoning game of deceit. This phase of Mitchell's life, marked by upheaval and behavioral red flags, laid the groundwork for her infamous future. The dysfunction of her family life, the early indicators of her manipulative tendencies, were not just footnotes in her story. They were the prologue to a life that would veer into the shadows, leaving a trail of questions about nature versus nurture in its wake. As Michel Notek transitioned from a troubled child to a complex adult, the fabric of her life darkened, thread by ominous thread. No longer confined to the subtle manipulations of her youth, Mitchell's actions evolved into a more sinister pattern, one that would cast long shadows over the lives of those she claimed to love. In the quiet corners of everyday life, Mitchell perfected her craft of deceit. She harbored no boundaries when it came to manipulation, spinning webs of lies that ensnared not just acquaintances, but those closest to her heart. Family and friends, who should have been her sanctuary, became her most frequent victims. Mitchell's penchant for cruelty knew no limits. It was an ever-expanding chasm, pulling in those who made the mistake of orbiting too close. Her marriage, once a symbol of a new beginning, became a stage for her darkest performances. Mitchell's husband, drawn in by love, found himself trapped in a psychological thriller with no exit. The home they shared, rather than a haven, became a prison. Mitchell's transformation was complete. She was no longer just a participant in her tale of darkness, but its author, scripting each chapter with a cold precision that left no room for escape. This spiral into darkness was not just a descent, but a deliberate journey. Mitchell, with each act of cruelty, seemed to test the boundaries of what one human could inflict upon another. Her life became a twisted experiment in power, control, and the profound depths of human endurance. Those looking in from the outside might never have guessed the horrors that unfolded behind closed doors, a testament to Mitchell's chilling ability to cloak her true nature in the guise of normalcy. The narrative of Michel Notek, once veiled in the subtleties of childhood mischief, took a harrowing turn as she grew. The chasm between mere manipulation and outright cruelty began to narrow, revealing a pattern of behavior both chilling and methodical. Mitchell, it seemed, had an insidious talent for targeting those who dared to venture too close, transforming trust into a weapon as sharp as any knife. This transition wasn't abrupt, but rather a slow poison, seeping into the foundation of her relationships. Friends, family, loved ones, no one was spared. Mitchell's home, supposedly a sanctuary of familial bonds, became the stage for a series of psychological dramas that left scars deep within the psyche of those she professed to care for. Her marriage, a union that should have been built on mutual respect and love, turned into a sinister game of control and dominance, where Mitchell pulled the strings, orchestrating events with a precision that was as terrifying as it was inexplicable. What drives a person to inflict such torment upon those they are closest to? Mitchell's actions suggest a desire not just to dominate, but to consume the very essence of her victims, leaving them hollow shadows of their former selves. This pattern of targeting the vulnerable, those incapacitated by love or familial duty, marks a dark evolution in Mitchell's journey into the abyss. It's a tale not just of crimes committed, but of the profound betrayal of the human spirit. As the spiral into darkness deepened, so too did the complexity of Mitchell's machinations. Each act of cruelty was a brushstroke in a macabre masterpiece, a testament to her ability to manipulate the fabric of reality to suit her twisted desires. In Mitchell's world, love was a currency to be traded, and trust was a game to be won, leaving behind a trail of broken spirits and shattered lives. As Michel Notek's web of deceit ensnared more unsuspecting victims, the horrors within her realm took on a life of their own. The veil of normalcy that Mitchell had so meticulously woven began to fray at the edges, revealing the depth of her cruelty. Family members, once the anchors of her seemingly mundane existence, became the primary targets of her malevolence, suffering under a regime of psychological and physical torment that defied comprehension. Among the most harrowing tales to emerge from Mitchell's House of Horrors were those of Kathy Lorno and Shane Watson. Kathy, a friend drawn into Mitchell's orbit by the gravitational pull of her manipulative charm, soon found herself caught in a nightmare from which there was no awakening. What began as an offer of shelter quickly devolved into a sentence of unimaginable abuse. Mitchell, assuming the role of jailer and tormentor, subjected Kathy to a relentless campaign of degradation that stripped her of her dignity, her health, and ultimately her life. Shane Watson's story is no less tragic. A relative who sought refuge within Mitchell's home, he was met not with the warmth of kinship, but with the cold embrace of cruelty. Mitchell exploited Shane's vulnerability, subjecting him to a similar pattern of abuse that had become her hallmark. The trust that should have safeguarded Shane became the weapon that facilitated his suffering, leading to a fate as cruel as it was undeserved. These stories, each a testament to the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of Michel Notek's facade, highlight not just the acts of a single individual, but the failure of those around her to see the signs. The horrors that unfolded within the walls of Mitchell's home serve as a chilling reminder of the capacity for evil to hide in plain sight, masquerading as the ordinary until the moment it reveals its true face. The end of Michel Notek's reign of terror unfolded not with a dramatic confrontation, but through the courage of one young woman bound to Mitchell not just by blood, but by a shared history of suffering. Nikki, Mitchell's daughter, emerged as the unlikely architect of her downfall. Bearing the scars of her own encounters with Mitchell's cruelty, Nikki made the decision that would ultimately lead to her mother's arrest. She chose to speak out. Haunted by the memories of what she had endured and witnessed within the walls of her childhood home, Nikki carried with her the weight of unspeakable horrors. Yet it was this burden that compelled her to act, driven by a determination that no one else should suffer as she had. Her testimony, a harrowing account of life under Mitchell's tyranny, peeled back the layers of secrecy that had allowed such atrocities to go unnoticed. As law enforcement delved deeper into the allegations, the facade of normalcy that Mitchell had so carefully constructed began to crumble. Evidence mounted, and the stories of Kathy Lorno, Shane Watson, and others who had suffered at Mitchell's hands painted a picture of a predator masquerading as a protector. It was Nikki's bravery in confronting her own mother that served as the catalyst for Mitchell's arrest, setting the stage for a legal reckoning that had been long overdue. Mitchell's arrest marked the end of a chapter characterized by unimaginable cruelty and the beginning of a new one focused on justice and healing for the victims. The woman who had once wielded power with such impunity found herself ensnared in the very web of lies and manipulation she had spun. As Mitchell faced the consequences of her actions, the community grappled with the realization of the evil that had lurked in their midst, brought to light by the courage of a daughter seeking justice for her family and for all who had suffered in silence. The gavel's fall in the courtroom marked the beginning of the end for Michel Notek and her accomplices. Convicted on multiple counts related to the abuse and torment inflicted upon those under her care, Mitchell faced a sentence that reflected the gravity of her crimes. Her accomplices, too, faced justice, each sentence a testament to the lives they had shattered. The courtroom for those moments became a crucible of justice, a place where the pain and suffering of the victims were finally acknowledged and validated by the law. Yet, even as sentences were handed down, the question of whether justice was truly served lingered in the air. For the survivors of Mitchell's reign of terror, the verdicts provided a sense of closure, but the scars left behind were indelible. The legal outcome represented a crucial step towards healing, yet the journey ahead remained fraught with challenges. In the aftermath of the trial, the resilience of the survivors emerged as a beacon of hope. Despite the depths of despair they had encountered, individuals like Nikki forged paths toward recovery and empowerment. The legacy of Mitchell's crimes was not just one of pain and suffering, but also one of survival and strength. Families and victims banded together, finding solace in shared experiences and working to rebuild the trust and innocence that had been taken from them. The impact of Mitchell's actions extended beyond the courtroom, sparking conversations about the nature of abuse and the importance of vigilance within communities. The survivors, in choosing to share their stories, became advocates for those still ensnared in cycles of abuse, their voices a call to action for society to recognize and respond to the signs of domestic terror. As our exploration of Michel Notek's dark saga concludes, we are reminded of the importance of vigilance and support for victims of abuse. The courage of survivors like Nikki underscores the vital role that awareness and intervention play in preventing such tragedies. Let this story be a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the capacity for renewal in the face of darkness. We invite you to reflect on this tale, to recognize the signs of abuse in your surroundings, and to offer support to those in need. Your engagement and awareness can make a difference in the lives of those grappling with abuse. Subscribe, like, and share your thoughts below. Together, we can foster a community of support and vigilance, ensuring that the legacy of survival outshines the legacy of abuse.